ready.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another video. I'm Shuri. If you are new, welcome. If you're not, thank you so much for coming back. In today's video, as you guys can see from the title, we're going to be doing a surgical tech video in honor of Surgical Tech Week, which is from September
18 to the 21st.
To the 24th.
Oh, 24th.
To the 24th.
To the 24th. So that whole week is going to be dedicated to surgical techs, and we are going to be answering some questions and talking about the job.
Fun.
Awesome. Yes.
Perfect. So jumping straight into the video. First of all, this is
Yadi.
Magda.
Yay. Okay. So one of the first and most questions that I get all the time is basically, what does a surgical tech do?
What do we do?
What do we do?
We definitely anticipate what the surgeon needs and what's needed for a surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically think of it as like the right-hand man of a surgeon. I mean, depending on the facility that you go to, you can have first assists and things like that. But a surgical tech plays a very significant role in assisting with prepping, like doing a lot of the important side steps that a surgeon also does alongside a surgeon during the surgery.
Right. So I think like the biggest thing is that we can't like manipulate tissue per se. Like that's out of our scope of practice. Like I think first assists are able to more go into the body and like do stuff. We can retract and help with stuff, but not exactly handle tissue
or suture.
Depending on where you are, for sure. So basically we set up the room, we get everything ready. We use something called a preference card. If it's accurate, it helps us get ready for the case and to know what the surgeon likes. So like every case is similar, but every surgeon is different, and what they use tend to change from time to time, and some surgeons, they do it the same all the time, but you always want to have some type of reference to just get the case set up and have all the necessary things that you need to get the case going.
Right, cool. I also do want to say that like and not usually, if a preference card isn't your best bet sometimes it's not your best bet, there are also people around that can also significantly help when it comes to getting that information across.
Yeah, so like your circulator is like a good person to talk to about the case, especially if they've been at the facility for a really long time. Then they're going to be able to give you all the insights that you need for your case. And if they don't know, then maybe sometimes the resident don't know. I wouldn't ask them anything, to be honest. Just ask the surgeon directly when they get in the room, if they come, like early, because sometimes they don't show up until things start going.
And sometimes they're there before you're ready, so.
Right. Okay. All right, so another question is, like, how long have we been surgical techs? So I think we've all been doing it for about a year now.
Yep, it's definitely a year for me in September.
In January.
Okay, so almost. I feel like we're all at that mark where we're like, is this career for me? I think it's a good spot to be at right now. At 1 year or almost 1 year, you kind of have a feel of, how everything's kind of running, how the facility goes, and if you like really like the job or not.
Mm-hmm.
So someone asked, I'm taking microbiology right now. I would like to know how big is microbiology in the OR? So I would say in terms of micro, like the only big thing about micro is like, there's specimens that you collect in every case that you do. And the biggest thing about micro that you need to know is just knowing if your specimen is going for frozen, if it's going for permanent, and basically like a frozen specimen is going to go to pathology right away. And usually in the room, the nurse will call to pathology and say, hey, I have a frozen, and they take it out of the room and test it right away. And then if it's a permanent, then it goes into formalin. You're going to be using formalin a lot in the OR, and you just want to make sure that you ask if it's going in formalin, because if you put something in formalin, that needs to be preserved in a different way. Like it needs to be preserved dry, because formalin is a preservative, but some things need to be kept dry. So you always want to make sure you ask your surgeon if it needs to be in formalin, if it's getting cultured. So if it's cultured, it's definitely not going into formalin, because a culture is basically a specimen that's going to go sit and grow bacteria to find out if the patient has any type of like crazy bacteria that's in their body. Anaerobic, all
But those are also always things that you can ask. So like, don't always have to take it upon yourself.
Yeah, don't
to
take
be
it
like,
upon yourself to like, you know, yeah,
It's just good to know, like, so you know what's going on in the surgery.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's not all your responsibility to know everything.
Yeah. So just ask a question, like just ask if this is cultured, if it's going through pathology, and the surgeon usually will tell you that. And then about specimens, the other thing is just knowing the name of the specimen, which again your surgeon's going to tell you. And if you know you're kind of having one of those cases where your surgeon's in a bad mood and you don't want to ask again, you're gonna have to like figure it out with your circulator. Like maybe she can Google something for you how to spell it, but at the end of the case, sometimes you can definitely ask your surgeon, like, can you verify?
Yeah, at the end of the case, they will verify, and they also have to sign the.
Oh, that's a good way. Yeah. Or you can whisper it to your resident. I mean, like
the resident, like, what did I say again? Yeah.
Another way to also help your circulators is writing down like the name and the time, because sometimes they're busy like running around. So you can make like usually in your packs you have those little stickies. You have those little, what are they called? Like little labels. You can just kind of put it on and just say like time and what it is.
And if it's going for frozen, permanent, or
all of those.
Culture, yeah, that's super helpful for your circulator.
But go off with microbiome. We'd love to see
it. Micro was definitely like one of my favorite subjects when I was.
Never took it.
No,
I didn't.
I loved micro. I don't know why, but I like learning about all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone says, "Why are you guys so mean to students? We're trying our best."
Oh my god.
Okay, I don't think I'm mean to med students. I mean, if you catch me on a bad day, then I'm kind of short with med students sometimes. Because sometimes I'm like, do you even know how to open that? And they don't. But they attempt to open something, and then I'm like, well, that's not. Or they're trying to give me like their gowns with the wrapper still on.
I'm like,
and I'm like, I can't take that from
It's a big sterility like thing.
Yeah.
Because they can, when you don't know how to do something, and as a surgical tech, we spent like 15, 20, 30 minutes setting up, and then someone comes and breaks the sterility, we have to do it all over again.
And so, then that delays.
Mean.
Yeah, and like that's going to be delaying the case. The surgeon's going to be upset. So we're definitely always on defense when med students come in the OR, because usually you guys don't know anything, and in regards to sterility, and that's what we do, you know what I mean? That's our job, to making sure that things stay sterile. And so I guess sometimes people are a little bit really like on the fence and can come off mean to med students, but I think it's mostly just to keep you, because if you contaminate something, I'm pretty sure you don't want your attending screaming at you about that, you know what I mean? So you don't want to be that person, that's the thing. So I apologize for the other techs who are mean to you guys, but I think at the end of the day, it's just we're always on defense, because this is it's super important. Sterility is like a major thing. If you mess up our field, we're gonna have to do it all over again, and that takes time away from the day and the flow in the day and things like that. So
I also know that like not a lot of, I might be wrong about this, but not a lot of medical school is focused around sterility, and like a lot of what we do is focused on sterility, right? Yeah. So it's not medical students' fault when they don't know, but it's always important. Like if you come in and you want to just come to us, like I know there's a lot of things that you're worrying about when you're coming to an OR for the first time, but if you just want to come to the surgical tech and say, hey, this might be my first time or something like that, I might not open this correctly, because you have a little bit of time when they're prepping or anything like that. So if you want to just be like, I'm not exactly sure, then we can literally like just open it like this and then do this, right, instead of just going into it like you know everything that's going on, and then something goes wrong.
Yeah, I think that's the part where that gets people. It's like you coming in thinking you know everything, and it's like we don't know where your level is at. Right. So you need to let us know, hey, this is my first day in the OR. I don't know how to spin. I don't know how to put a gown on or how to put my gloves on.
It's okay not to know.
It's okay not to know any of these things. We're literally there to help you and guide you and to make this transition as easy as it is for you, because we know you have a lot to worry about with your attending. So, and we probably hate your attending too, so we're probably gonna help you. So, just let us know, don't come in thinking you know everything, because I think that's where a lot of people mess up,
Oh, I'm a girl with my dog. I'm so sorry.
somebody asked what was the first step you took to become a surgical tech?
Starting school.
Right.
Like, okay, so I actually went into school because I wanted to do sonography. But sonography is such a like a dead end type of program. You can't really do anything else with sonography.
Have to go back.
Yeah. So Montgomery Community College gives a surgical tech program, and I already had all my credits for that. So when I was like trying to fill out, it was on the same paper as the sonography paper.
That's
so
really
I was
cool.
like, oh, what's a surgical tech? And so I went and looked for it, and I'm like, oh, it's only 1 year additional to what I already have done, and I already had all my credits. So I signed up for it. It was a really small program at that time, only 15 students. Now they have 30.
Crazy.
Because MedStar is asking for like 15 students.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
So I actually looked into it. I found it interesting. I also, the pay was good. It was something that will put you in the working field right away.
Right.
And that's really what I needed. So that was my first step to surgical tech.
Yeah, I think I was already in healthcare, and I was kind of done being a medical assistant pretty much. And I was just doing my research of what could be like the next step without having to do like another, 4-year degree or something like that. So I looked into all my options and thought surgical tech might have been like the coolest option probably. And I just researched schools in my area. Always make sure that your school is accredited. That's a major thing. If your school's not accredited, then you're going to waste your time because you need a certification to be able to work. I'm pretty sure in a lot of states, that's the thing. You have to be accredited. And a lot of schools out there actually have people, spend their money and they're not accredited. So that's a major thing, is to make sure that whatever state you live in, there is accreditation. Like the best place to go is probably the ASD, which is the Association of Surgical Technology, and you'll be able to find a lot of like schools in your area and options for you. That's the first step, is just researching what schools are accredited and how long the program is, and that's pretty much it.
Also, really quickly, just to add, if you do want to be like a travel surgical tech, you do need to be certified for that also.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, Sherry also did bring up a good point. You have the opportunity to do on-the-job training depending on the hospital that you're at. That's why networking is so important. But like, what's it called? Getting an accredited, going to an accredited place is also really important. But as for me, I actually got it through my high school. So there are some places that, like I know that there are certain schools that have like DE programs that allow for to receive a certification once again through your school. And so I was given the opportunity to do so, and like Yadi, I didn't know what a surgical tech was.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know.
No, you don't know.
I had no idea that was a job.
Right. I knew on Grey's Anatomy there was always that one person that passed the instruments. I was like, what does this person do? So it was really cool to see what it is. And like, once again, when you do that research, you realize there are so many jobs that you just never hear about.
Yeah. So I feel like hospital is also just so into just like, everyone's like, oh, the nurse, the doctor, and that's literally it. Like, there's a whole team of people behind those people that keep hospitals running, like
us.
You know what I mean? Like, I personally don't think surgery could go on without surgical techs.
Yeah.
Like, who's gonna set up your room? And unless you're a nurse that scrubs, it's like, it's really like a unique job. It was created for a reason.
I mean, there are some surgeons that really think that they can do it without.
They really do. And they really be pressing me like, what do you mean?
Right. But just to add on to like the previous, from surgical tech, it is an open field because people go to surgical assistant or they become PAs. You can even go back to school and become a doctor after that. Or, it's a very open certification or a very open study that gives you a lot of opportunity to get your foot into the hospital or into the medical field, and then you can branch out from there.
Yeah. And another reason why I really decided to also take on a job that was similar to it is because when you work at a hospital, or if like you work at a hospital that's affiliated with a school or anything like that, there's opportunities for reimbursements. I mean, your job can also provide you reimbursements for certain things. I know there are certain people that if they do on-the-job training and wanted to receive their certification, they can get certain fees reimbursed through the hospital. So these are all things that you can consider when you apply, / like these are questions that you can ask HR, your managers, and things like that. Like they actually, like certain places really want you to grow. Like they don't want you to stay stagnant. So there's definitely that. So that's another reason why I really liked it.
Mm-hmm. Next question is, would you ever work in a surgery center?
A big part of my clinicals was in a surgery center. Like that's where I actually got a lot of my credits. I like it, but there's a bit, I mean, consistency is good, don't get me wrong, but it can get really repetitive. You're literally doing the same thing over and over and over
and
again.
they're short procedures, so
they're really short.
Really doing it over and over again throughout the day.
And don't get me wrong, sometimes doing the work that we do, I don't know, like it can be really stressful.
Like
it can be
that.
Yeah, you would want that. But at the same time, like sometimes you, like there's excitement, I mean, okay, surgery.
There's a cop out here. What are you bringing?
But like, it's worth what you've done, like all the work that you put into the job when it comes to like really seeing what you're doing to help people. Okay, you know what? Somebody else can go. I'm not doing this correctly.
I think what I'm trying to get across is basically, so first of all, a surgery center is an option where you can work, which is basically like a 9 to 5 setting. So you don't take call, it's 9 to 5, it's Monday through Friday, and it's not open on like weekends and things like that.
You're making this sound real good.
Well, it is. I mean, those are the benefits, for sure. Those are the benefits.
Yeah.
But then at a hospital, especially a level 1 trauma hospital,
Which is where we work at.
which is where we work at, it's exciting. Like, it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
So if you're the type of person that gets bored, I know I get bored very easily. And so the idea of working at a surgery center where they do small procedures, I mean, they do big procedures sometimes, like I think ENT is there at a surgery center, or like plastic surgery, but it's very quick cases and the turnover time is like really, really fast. And you can get through those cases, but like you're doing those cases every single day.
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing over and over again. So you're going to fall into this cycle of repetition. And also as a new tech, if your goal is to like broaden your horizon, you know, go to med school, go to PA school, then it's much better to be at a hospital versus a surgery center, because you see so much more and you scrub so many different cases. So like I advise people to like go to a hospital first, and if you don't like that vibe of a hospital of doing so many different cases and being thrown anywhere because it gives you anxiety, then go to a surgery center. But I would say start at a hospital first, then see if you want to get a little bit more structure and go to a surgery center.
I also do want to say that like when it comes to travel, I like the one thing that I really like about it is once again you have contract, but you can go to you can work at a hospital like a level 1, and then you can go to a surgery center. And then really fluctuate between like and it really, once again, it broadens your like what you're doing even more, because you're really going in all directions. So it's really cool. Yeah. But it like we say the quick turnovers, but there are quick turnovers. Yeah. So you're gonna be moving throughout the day. Like it's not a slow paced thing. Like the nice thing with working at our hospitals is that like turnover takes forever, but like you do get a break, especially if you're coming out of like a 3-4 hour case. You get a nice break in between. A robot case, you know, you get a nice break in between, versus at a surgery center you're go and I think the only time you can stop is like your lunch break. And it's like, you know, that's crazy. And then again, the hours are good for surgery centers, so people who like, you know, if you have multiple kids, that might be hard to do hospital jobs because of the hours and taking call. So a surgery center might be a good option for you, but starting out I would definitely recommend getting your experience.
And I think that surgery centers, you have to pull your own instruments, your own like pack, and do the own cleaning. So you
Yeah.
do everything.
And I think like SPD for
Surgery.
them are like smaller, so like there's probably not that many people cleaning
That's
instruments,
also-
so
yeah,
you might
that's
also
really
have to do that. So again, the
Yeah.
biggest thing with getting out there and choosing a job is reading your job description. When you get an interview, like super important questions to ask. Like I remember asking, like, am I gonna have to clean my own rooms? That was one of the questions I asked.
That's a smart question.
I was like, I'm not gonna be done in a case and then cleaning this room and like, no, going down to SPD. I was like, no, I need to know right now, am I gonna clean the rooms? I mean, are we cleaning rooms right now? Yes, yes. But there are people to do it. They're like people to do it. They're periop techs. We're a little short staffed right now, so we jump in where we can. But there are periop techs. I know there's some hospitals you do this yourself. So
We do it though.
we do.
No, I'm saying night. So the interesting thing is that we actually all work different
that's
shifts.
true.
Yes.
Yeah, that's actually really cool.
So we
I'm
have,
a
like,
morning person.
I'm mid shift.
And I'm overnight.
Overnight, yeah.
And so the thing that sucks for me is that there aren't periop techs
Right,
overnight.
that's true.
So when we're done with the case, we literally turn over our room and then we go to a different room, set up, and if there's multiple cases throughout the night, we are set to clean the rooms and then have it ready for y'all in the morning.
Wait, let me just add that before coming into the hospital, I thought they were doing surgery 24/7. Like, so
I mean, they are.
They are,
technically,
but
it's
there
not
isn't
like,
like a set hours where we do the most surgery, where it can go up to like 7 p.m. or something,
Yeah.
maybe 4, and after that they're just like emergency.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. So I guess we could talk about like our shifts. So starting at 7 to 3, what is that like?
That is
What is that like?
we have schedule cases, so we have about on an average 40 cases scheduled for the day, and we come in, our room is set up from the morning
Because of us. Thank you.
It's an overnight.
We do our
and
best.
we just tackle those cases as fast as we can. As what is one room finished, then we go to another, and we have add-ons also,
Yeah.
and those get tackled once all the scheduled cases get finished.
Well, I guess an add-on, like if it's an emergent add-on, then a regular scheduled case could get bumped,
Yeah.
and let them the add-on, if it's an emergency, if that needs to go right away, will get bumped. The regular case schedule will get bumped.
And they do have supposedly a trauma team throughout the day, all the time.
Especially
that-
at level ones.
Yeah,
That's where-
Yeah.
that takes over those cases that come in as an emergency. So what is it in the afternoon?
So I work mid shift. So I come in and I give lunch to Yadi, and so I cover like 3 lunches, and then as the day go by, the cases are kind of dropping, and at 3 o'clock I go into a room to relieve someone, and that could be either starting a case or finishing up a case for someone. If there's a case to follow, then I do that case, and then sometimes literally there's nothing, and we kind of just wait, and I'm trauma team, and if a trauma rolls through that door, and if it's coming up, then I'm taking it, and then as the night goes by, I work until 9:30, so usually sometimes I'm in a room up until 9:30, or I'm just trauma team waiting for something to happen.
And then I do overnights, the hardest, but sometimes it really is. So I work I used to work from 11 to 7, but now things have slightly changed, so I work 9 to 7. So I pick up where she leaves off. So if she doesn't do her job completely the way she's supposed to, we gotta pick up the slack, And so for us, you can't expect anything. It can literally be like there was a couple weeks ago where we had a vascular case that started relatively late, started at, 8 p.m., and then it continued until basically 4 a.m. So it can be something like that, and if not, it can just be like any leftover add-on cases can also go, and then as was said, any emergent cases that really need to go, but more commonly it's usually like a lab epi, lab chole kind of thing. Some urology cases may need to go. But our second main goal, which I mentioned before, is to make sure that rooms are ready and cleaned for day shift. So we would do our best to get all the equipment and things like that prepared for the rooms. But as we mentioned before, with preference cards, may not always be up to date, so we might miss a couple things.
There's also, let me just add that there's always like a comment section on the posting,
Yeah.
and that also would include all the equipment and extra stuff that they may need for the surgery that day, that case. So that will also guide you.
But it's important to know some of those postings don't be having the right comments.
Right. Yeah.
And I learned that myself a couple times. Some of the staff will be able to know. But like that's for the most part what you'd expect of overnight. And like once again, like as Sheree mentioned, sometimes she has like some free time during her shift. And so sometimes at night we have like a free time, like we have nothing to do between like, I don't know, maybe 1 o'clock to 3. And then as one of my coworkers likes to say, I'm gonna stay on edge just in case we have our 5 a.m. case. And we always have our 5 a.m. case whenever she says it. I don't know why she wants to do that to us, but it just so happens to be the case. So, yeah.
Yeah, so basically you guys got a feel of what the shifts are like. And I think the only other, is there any other shift?
There's evening, but it goes with midday.
Yeah, it goes with midday.
Which is like a 3 to 11 type of shift.
Right, yeah,
and they come,
3 to 11.
Yeah, they come to relieve the people who are leaving
At 3.
At 3.
Yeah.
And, just kind of stay till 11.
Right.
I also do want to add that, like, the nice thing about day shift and the nice thing about midday shift / mid-evening, I guess you kind of go pretty late, is that there's a lot of people that usually are, not a lot of people, but there are more people that are available during that time. So there's a lot more resources. And things can run a lot smoother.
Right.
So sometimes the thing that kind of sucks about overnight is that like we're just 2 teams. We're just at least where we work, it's 2 surgical techs sometimes.
The charge nurse.
Yeah, a charge nurse and then 1 more nurse. So if we usually just run 1 case at a time at night, and then have 1 backup team just in case anything emergent happens, so that we can have that up and ready. At all times. And if something like if we did have a case going and then we had a trauma called, I don't like using that word, it's a trigger for me now. But we have a call team that's also set for the day. Yeah, an on-call team, that will have to come in at 2 a.m. God forbid, we're trying to get people to stay safe.
Yeah, so to piggyback on that, to go into calls, someone asked what it's like taking calls. So pretty much, so for me, you start because you work the earlier shift. So what's your call?
So our requirement are 11 on calls on a 8-week period.
8-week
period. So we have to take 7 day shift, 2 weekends, and 2 overnight, and that's spread out in that 8-week period. So the day shift will mean my shift is 7 to 3. So then I will take on calls 3 to 7. That will be my day shift. And sometimes we stay, sometimes we get to go home. And then we just regular take overnight calls and then 2 weekends call.
Right, and then for me, my call, since I work 11 to 9 p.m., there's really no call after 9 p.m. So I would come in at 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. So I'd have an 8-hour period of call. And that's really if like there's a trauma, like she said, if there's a trauma going on and they're in a room, God forbid, knock on wood, for the people who are there tonight. Forgot the hospital's running.
24/7.
And hopefully I'm not on call. I should probably check that. My husband literally like, you're dead asleep, but I'm pretty sure your calendar says you're on call. God bless you.
Gotta keep your spirits up.
So basically overnight call, and then my requirements is nice because it's like really not. I think for me it's 7. It's like 7 during the week. No, it's actually 5 during the week.
Because you do 8 hours.
Because I do 8 hours.
I do 4 hours.
Yeah, and then I do 2 weekends, and that's my call pretty much.
And I have the best call schedule for all of y'all. I only have to take 2 weekend calls. That is it. Because like, I think you can't stay for very long. Like once again, when you do your shift, and I'm already coming in like that following. I don't really know why, to be honest. We don't really do day calls.
I think it's just because it's staff.
I think it's staff.
Because it's staff in the morning.
You have enough staff in the morning,
so they don't need you to
stay. Doesn't make any sense.
And also, just to add that on call, when they call you, you have like about an hour. They come into your call.
And so we don't need to do overnight call just because we work overnight. Once again, I don't know why people don't like to work overnight more. There's a lot of like perks to it.
Well,
y'all should join me.
First of all, for the people watching this vlog are probably people who are trying to get into the field. It's not the best field. It's not the best shift if you're just starting out.
That's true.
So again, like she said, the later in the day the time goes, People leave. There's not a lot of resources available for like people to help you pick cases if something were to pop up. So if you're not really comfortable in your skills, a later shift in the day is probably not the best for you to start out with because of just the lack of resource that's there at the hospital at that time, and you might feel overwhelmed with having to figure things out on your own.
Yeah, you have to like build your own case card.
Exactly, you got to build your own case card. You really got to know what you're doing.
We work so hard.
And I'm
so if you want to be a hustler like us.
At that, overnight and weekend calls were one of the first surgeries that shook off my nerve when I first started there.
Ooh.
Because they just put you in a position where you have to take that.
Yeah.
They're not scheduled surgeries, so you can't like predict what's gonna happen. They just come in and you just gotta shake the nerves off and go straight ahead, talk to the surgeon, talk to the charge nurse, talk to whoever you need to get the case going. And it's like once you do that, I mean, schedule surgery.
No, exactly.
No, but Yanni brings up a really crucial point. So one of the reasons why I hated overnight shifts in the beginning is because okay, so I know a lot of people that decide to become surgical techs. It's a stressful job. You know what I mean? Like, you're really there. You know what I mean? You don't really get it until you're really there.
You're really there. You're like, oh shit, what's happening?
I remember, especially when I was first starting out. Okay, so for me, it's like I got my certification in 2017. And then I was 4 years out of practice, and then I went right back into it. So, like, I was really nervous when I first started out. And so when I actually went overnight relatively quickly after starting the job. And one thing that I used to do in the mornings before, when I was working days, is I used to message my charge and say, like, what cases are you putting me into? Or, like, I would always check the schedule to mentally prepare myself for what case I was going to be in. You don't get none of that at night, and you don't get none of that during the evening, and even during the day, sometimes you really don't know. And so, like, you're literally thrown into whatever, and so it kind of eased my nerves, because I'm just kind of always on edge. I learned that that's kind of what it was. I'm just kind of always nervous, and so that became my baseline. And so when that's your baseline, you don't mind it as much, and you really... In preparing the rooms, you learn where all the equipment is, though it's sometimes not where it's supposed to be, y'all.
Day shift.
And evening.
Day shift.
So like you get a grasp of like learning where things are, and then learning a lot about different surgeons' preferences because you're just working with all of them. So I
think you learn like the OR, like
you do
the heart of it, because you have to learn like what equipment you have to bring into the room, bed you have to bring into the room, which at the beginning I was like so confused.
I definitely still don't know the beds. The 10, 50, 10, 30, I don't know the beds. Don't ask me for a bed because I don't know what it is.
She said,
I don't know. You're telling me I did not know that the beds were different. Okay, first of all, I had no clue that the beds were different. I was like, what are you talking about? The bed's not right. It looks like that's what we use a lot of time. Don't ask me.
So like once I was able to learn that, it's like I was able to help my circulator in the daytime, because now I'm like, oh, okay, that procedure needs like a Neptune or it needs this, I can go get it. But you know, just overnight or night shift, it teaches you to be self-sufficient.
It definitely like throws you to the sharks and like really gets your brain prepared. Like if you definitely come in on call and you had to scrub like a trauma case or something, you can do any case day shift. Like you can definitely do any scheduled case at that point, because your the nerves are there, but you're like, you know what, I did it, you know, a few nights ago.
Right, it isn't easy.
Like, whatever, it's fine. So but I think that's the biggest thing about the job. It's like, especially in the beginning, like the nerves are really, really there. Like I remember, like I used to profusely sweat so bad at the beginning of a case. Like I was like dying. I was like, why is it so hot in here? Like it would be so hot. My brain is just like, it's like I forget what my mayo is. I forget like what an accent is, and it was just like, and it's. But as you go and as you become comfortable in your skills, you have to give it time. That's the number one advice that I can give you. Give yourself time. Don't be so hard on yourself, because the more you do things is the more you're going to get it. The more comfortable you are with the staff, with your room, you know, then it's going to come to you. And another thing, advice that I would give is if you know your cases before, like read up on it, you know, watch a YouTube video or something. Like give yourself the chance to kind of get your brain ready so that you can be a step, you know, ahead of things, because
anticipation
is a really big part of your role, and there's nothing like not knowing what you're supposed to do. Your surgeon's just like, okay.
Right. But I also do want to mention, like she said, like give yourself some space, because no matter how prepared you are, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And
anything can happen.
And I was gonna say that you gotta ask a lot of questions,
Yeah.
which is at the beginning you're like nervous.
Yeah.
You put this pressure on you that everything should be, you know, your
You
table
know
should,
everything,
and your table should be, you should have everything open. But it's like, no, it's
You
not
learn
gonna
the
happen.
process.
You gotta ask questions. You gotta ask the
Here's the
surgeon
thing.
what they're gonna need.
Yeah, you're gonna mess up a lot before you start getting it. Like you're gonna not have a bovie and it doesn't click, you know, or a camera cord in a laparoscopic case, and then it clicks. Like you're gonna have to mess up. I'm sorry to say it, but you're gonna have to probably mess up before it really clicks in your head that you know your step. But the big way to like minimize that, especially as you go and as you get more comfortable in your skills, something I would do is I would talk out the case in my head. Like, okay, what's the first step what we're gonna do? And I just go from there. You take it one step at a time, literally. Like, there's only one thing at a time that you really can do during surgery while it's going on. You can only open at one time, you know what I mean? Like, you know, there's steps to it, and you just gotta take it one step at a time, like, literally.
I literally, like, make a challenge for myself to learn a new step, even if it's the same procedure.
Exactly.
Until I can finally get to a point where, like, okay, I know that procedure. I know at which point they're gonna need this and they're gonna need that, but you don't learn it on the first try.
Yeah, no.
And a lot of people ask, you know, is it hard learning surgeons' preferences? You know, my thing is like, sure, surgeons have different preferences, but there's really only one way to take out an appendix.
Right.
There's only so many ways for you to take out an appendix. At the end of the day, if it has ectomy at the end of it, something's coming out.
Yeah.
And there's only so many ways that you can take that out of the human body. So as long as you know what is coming out and what the procedure is, you're probably gonna be okay.
You'll have the basics, and that's like the most important part. I mean, like once again, it can vary when it comes to like certain cases. Like trocars can differ, sutures.
And that's all about preference, surgeon's preference.
Yeah, exactly. And these are questions you can always ask
beforehand.
And sometimes you won't have the exact surgeries that they want. They will still call it out, and sometimes even if they say that they want it, they might
probably don't even use it.
Yeah, that's another charge. So sometimes it even helps to not always have the suture that they want, because that might not be what they use anyway. And it can sometimes differ in staples, you know what I mean?
But it's always good to just have it at least in the room.
Yes.
It saves the circulator from running around, and at least the surgeon will trust you a little bit, because they will be like, okay, at least it's in the room.
Right. You got it.
Okay.
Exactly.
It's not on the table, but it's in the room, so it's okay.
And then I think, like, and if you're one of those people who are like, okay, I need to have something open a Vicryl.
Oh yeah.
Open
a
Vicryl. Open a Vicryl. It stops bleeders. They can use it as a tie. Just open some sort of Vicryl, and you're probably like, your surgeon will be like, okay, you know what? You don't have a silk. That's fine. Give me the Vicryl, because they can still use it.
There are little things that you'll pick up if they have a drain. If they have a drain, a nylon. You know,
just get a nylon ready. If you're an ENT, they probably like a silk or something.
Oh, that's true.
You know, just
skin monochrome. Come on.
You learn, like you'll pick up on like the simple things that they're always saying.
They start repeating.
But give yourself time.
Give yourself time, for sure. Are you guys jamming out in the OR?
Oh, heck yeah. So much.
Unless you're like in ortho, and
then they're jamming out.
Because they're probably playing some type of
rock music.
And I'm like, okay, so I would like to take this fucking hammer and hammer myself in the head.
Just like, me next.
I'm the next one on this table.
But they hit you with that. Then they hit you with that. Do you know what song this is?
No, I have no idea what this is. But yeah, typically we are playing music. I feel like almost 9 out of 10 surgeons play music. There's only like probably 1 or 2 that I can count that don't really like music. But I think most of the surgeons.
Some of them request.
They be talking throughout the
Yeah, you have surgeons who just talked about the surgery student and whatever.
And they like teaching.
And they like teaching, so it's a little bit distracting for them. But I think 9 times out of 10 there is music in the OR, which is nice. And if you're working with like a younger team of, I know.
And ambulance just went by, and I'm like, oh no.
I should really check if I'm on call.
I hope they don't come from here. Jesus.
But yeah, I think 9 times out of 10 we're jamming out, and it's if you're working with if you're lucky to work with a younger team, then it's probably nowadays music, and you don't want to poke your fucking eyes out.
And another thing is that, like, as surgical techs, when you're prepping your room, you have that little bit of time. So what a lot of people always end up doing is that they some people have like just speakers
their own
in
speakers.
Their own speakers. Like bring your own speakers in. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you're setting up, especially if you're setting up for a big robot case or something, it's gonna take a while. Bring your little speaker and turn your phone on. Nobody's gonna say no. I think that's the one thing that I really like, especially when in school. I think they were so in school they were just it was I was scared to go out into the world.
Yeah,
like they were just so serious.
Yeah.
I remember my teacher told me that I couldn't lean. I literally found myself dead in the middle of the case on a wall, literally on the wall. If there's no chair in the room, it's literally not as serious as school makes it. Like, if you want to sit, you can sit.
Bruh,
it just be like, circulator, I need a stool, please. You can sit. You know, it's really not as uptight as school makes it out to be. I think school's there to kind of make you feel a little scared and whatnot, which is.
But also to give you responsibility.
Yeah, to give you responsibility.
Sterility is all about consistency, and I don't think you build that until somebody's drilling it on you to be sterile.
And it's the most important part of our jobs is maintaining that sterility and looking out. You are the eyes and ears of the operating room. You're gonna be so surprised at yourself. You're gonna be catching things before they fall. Reflexes are gonna be on point and then you're gonna be watching the med student, you're gonna be watching the resident, the surgeon. There's so many things to keep your eye on once the sterile field is set up. And once the drapes are on, you're kind of just you're looking all over while still trying to pass on instruments. Literally,
you're looking this way, you're looking this way, your
hand is over here retracting something. It's definitely a stressful job. I think it's fun.
It is.
I think it's very fun.
Which is the other thing about surgery centers. When you get into that, not that I'm dishing them, but once you get into that routine, you don't have that.
Right. You know what I mean? You don't have that,
but not to the same extent.
Yeah, you just don't have that flexibility at a surgery center. There's just not that many different things coming in, and with ortho keeps you on your toes.
Oh my gosh, ortho is one thing I had to learn about ortho is that it's a case that you cannot predict.
Can't predict.
I was so confused at the beginning because I used to want to think.
Which also brings to our favorite cases, so we can answer our favorite types of procedures.
Okay.
And then we probably should be going.
Okay, so ortho was one of the hardest for me to learn because I was expecting consistency of steps. But since we do trauma ortho, you can't. One minute they're screwing something, another minute they're no, we're gonna take it out and use a whole new system. So it was very confusing until I finally told my mind that you're just gonna go in the room and you're not gonna know what's gonna happen. You're gonna know the basic, of course, but you're just not gonna know how they're actually gonna fix it. You just gotta rely on your rep,
right?
And they're gonna guide you.
It's funny how you say that because I felt the same way. I hated ortho because I couldn't predict. And I felt I was this is the whole purpose of my job.
Exactly.
And I was why am I in a case where I literally have to rely on someone to be my brain? And it's you can't predict anything in unless it's obviously the beginning, it's your basic stuff. They're gonna cut, they're gonna expose to get to whatever is fractured or broken or whatever. But after that,
the repair hard part.
That's the hard part,
because that's when. And sometimes you hear them talking it out, the surgeon, with the rest,
and they're kind of figuring out as they go. Right, because this is a trauma call. They've never seen it before. So it's for sure. So what's your favorite?
So procedure? I do plastic. I like plastic, and I like spine. Oddly, spine keeps you going the entire time instead of just standing still, which I like because I like to stay busy. And then plastic is fun, watching people change, and they're very simple procedures, so it's something that you don't have to think much about. You just do it, and you enjoy the process of it.
I would say for me, Oddly, I like ortho. Again, like she said, it keeps you on your toes.
Okay.
It keeps you busy. Like after a day in ortho, I just feel like, damn.
You feel so badass.
I put that together. I was building that. I was like, okay, Bob the Builder. Like, right, Bob the Builder. I really feel like, okay, this was a successful day. But it's like, but I'm getting more comfortable with ortho now, and I really do like it. And again, I just feel like it's one of those cases where it keeps you on your toes. You're always going to be doing something. You never get bored in an ortho case because there's constant movement all around. And then my second love-hate relationship is going to be vascular. Vascular also keeps you on your toes. It's a very complicated cases to scrub. Those tiny needles, your vascular clamps are just like out of this world. But for some reason, I think I just hate myself, and I love myself. I love to give myself.
I love to hate myself.
I love to hate myself, you know. But I like a challenge, and that's the thing with surgery. It's like you can pick those things that really give you a challenge. Like it's really going to be challenging, and I do like vascular in that sense where I'm always I'm sweating the entire case for sure. Like,
and it's not only because of the leg.
And it's not because of the leg. Okay. I am completely stressed out. I probably don't know what a coolie clamp is, but I think I know it, but I'm not really sure. And then she says profonda, and I'm like, what? And I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but my brain just hasn't picked it up yet. And she's like, you just gave it to me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. It's right there. But I like
it's in your hand.
It's in your hand. But I like it because it challenges me, and at the end of the day, I think for me, my career has to be challenging. Like I'm easily bored if it's not challenging me, and if I feel like the next time I go into this case is the same, then that's a problem. Because I should have learned from the last thing. I should have learned from the last case, and I should be a little bit better than my last time I scrubbed the vascular case, basically.
But it's okay if you're not. Once again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's okay.
I don't have a favorite. I always think about this. I remember the last time we talked about this too. I don't have a favorite just because like even from the moment, like I've never really been consistent in like the surgeries that I do just because I'm thrown into so many different things, and sometimes I don't have as much, once again as we talked about, I don't have exposures to certain procedures because it's just not something that we readily do.
Because overnight is usually general or like a trauma, which just ends up being like,
and then urology. That's one thing I can say I really don't like. I mean, unless it's like there are certain urology cases that I'm like, all right, this is fine. Robotic cases I do like too, ish, because I mean, once you do like the initial setup, you're just kind of chilling for like an hour.
Oh, yeah, I hate robotic stuff.
I hate robots.
You guys say that? I mean,
like I'll take a robot like Friday.
Really?
It's been a crazy week,
and
you're like, okay, should we go into this robot case? And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be sitting for the rest of the time. Fine. But apart from that, you give me robots all day, I will probably lose my mind.
I'm chilling.
I'm also very tedious to set up. They have a lot of little things, draping, and just now we gotta open all the pill pack arms for the robot. Like it's just too much for me.
There's been a change when it comes to the policies at our hospital as well. But I don't have.
And we're in the dark.
Huh?
And we're in the dark.
That's fall asleep. That's a good point. But you're sitting.
I'd be bucking. My head's about to knock off my field.
See, you just see straight to the side.
I'd be like, let me go next to this wall over there.
But dang it, what was I gonna say? So I don't really have a preference. But one thing that I do like is as we like you guys have been saying are like more fast-paced surgeries, because one thing I learned about myself, if I have the chance to really think about what I'm doing, I'm probably gonna mess it up a lot more. Like when they're like, I need this, like I was in a case yesterday, like there was an emergency case in the middle, like right as like around 5 o'clock. And when the surgeon was just like, I need this, the resident said, I need this, and stuff like that. I'm like, bet, here you go.
Exactly. I'm like, all right, bet.
Yeah.
But then you start slowing me down. That's when I start thinking, and I'm overthinking it, and then all of a sudden I can't scrub a hernia. Like, come on. You literally scrubbed a craniotomy yesterday. Like, figure it out. Yeah, I need fast-paced stuff.
I also like fast-paced surgeons also.
Exactly.
When they know what they want. Oh, chef's kiss.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Working with a surgeon who knows exactly what they want. It doesn't change.
And knows exactly what they're doing.
It's just chef's kiss.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a great day.
Yeah.
Wow.
But when you're working with someone who, you know, maybe, what do you think? I don't know. I didn't do what you. I don't do what you do. Okay. I'm just over here passing you these things, and I don't know. So you're gonna find yourself in those situations where like your surgeon's probably like fresh out of school or something, and they're learning as they go, and yeah.
I guess it's okay when you're like a first year or learning, because that's how I learned spine with one of the newest surgeons, and I worked my way up because he was like, he is a little bit slow, so I was able to like keep up with him.
Yeah.
She said we learning together.
Right.
But one thing that's really nice about these ortho and neuro and spine cases, reps.
Oh,
we have not mentioned reps.
Yeah, let's talk about reps. They're lifesavers. They know their trays. They know what's happening.
They also
that
know their surgeon.
Their surgeon.
Because they work with the surgeon. So sometimes I'll be like, what? And they already know, because they already know their surgeon so well that they'll be able to like already give you what they're asking for.
So they're going to come in and they're going to tell you exactly how to set up something that you've never seen before in your life, but they're literally lifesavers, and they're going to help you get through your case. We're going to do one more question and then we're wrapping it up.
But at night, there's no reps. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah, it's all like on call.
But they're not going to show up when you have an emergency case. I mean, they're not going to. That's when I'm like, resident
overnight. Not for me.
You say that shift differentials, y'all. Lower parking. Speaking of which, we pay for parking.
Let's actually talk about something that matters.
Yeah.
So again, in your interview, make sure you ask about parking. Ask about your pay, of course. You know, because a lot of hospitals weirdly just don't provide parking, but a lot of them, some of them do offer like reimbursements for like your bus pass or like metro pass or whatever. So those are good questions to ask in your interview.
Me too, bro.
Because so ask about, you know, your pay, ask about parking. What else would you say? Ask about your shift. Like a lot of times when you apply for jobs, they'll be like day shift or like various shifts. So ask and be sure which specific shift you're going to be working, because that's super important. And if they rotate people, because if you're new and you're gonna be setting up your schedule and then you're randomly rotated on a weekend at like 11 p.m., you're probably gonna be freaking out. So always make sure make sure you ask what the rotating schedule is like, how often they rotate people, because that's super important to know. And
I feel like those are good questions, man.
Yeah, those are good questions. Those are the ones I can think of. And then what else?
When it comes to like questions, or you mean like
Just in general?
I had one thing that I wanted to say. Yeah.
I will always say have fun. You know, being a surgical tech, it is fun. We are the right hand of the surgeon. We are there for them. We teach their med students, residents. Sometimes they ask us like, do they use this, or stuff like that. We know a lot more than we're credited for, but so we just have fun with the surgery. Have fun setting up your table. Everything doesn't have to be like, when you're learning from other people, it doesn't have to be that way as I teach you. You can learn how to do it your own way. You can be innovative. Sometimes when the surgeons learn to trust you, they will you can do a new way of doing things, and they will be totally okay with it. They're just
there's a lot more wiggle room than you think that there is.
So it's like, don't be so uptight. Communicate, build a relationship with your surgeon, and they will like be so offhand. They will learn to trust you.
And that's another, like, introduce yourself. Yourself. They're not going to remember who you are. You only have this part over.
For sure. Especially when you're just working them for like the first time. One of my favorite ways to like introduce myself to a surgeon is while I'm gowning them.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, you're like, I'm right there. You're close to close. I'm not yelling across the room.
And nobody's asking no question.
You know what I mean? It's just, we're just there. We're talking and be like, hey, I'm Shree. Whatever.
That's when you can also tell. That's when you can also tell them like, hey, I'm new.
Yes.
Just so you know. If I have any questions, just let me know.
See, I try, like I like doing that, but sometimes the surgeons don't. Let me not say that. Let's say they don't scrub it. They probably should. Well, some of them you know how like sometimes they like take a bit to come into the room and stuff like that, and they just they're chilling on the side, And I'm like, I'm waiting until you come. I'm waiting until you come. Like, and at that point, you've already made eye contact a couple times.
That's how I was in the beginning. Like, in the beginning, that's how I would. But now that I'm a lot more comfortable, and I feel like, hey, you're walking into my OR, you know? At that point, you're walking into my OR, I've set up, I will be like, hey doc, you know, I'm such and such if I've never seen them before. And then, you know, and that's a really good way to, like, when they come in at that point where we're still kind of getting things going, you can be like, hey, can you come over here to my table, see if, you know, there's anything else that you need that I don't have, and just, like, chat with them, because, like, if
they're people.
they're people.
And
like,
they honestly hate when you don't ask a question, start a case, and everything's missing.
Yeah.
Because you could have just asked them before anything got started, and they would have told you.
Yeah. And it could be a Midas. I don't know if the hospitals have that, because like when you're doing a timeout, it's asked, is everything
needed? Yeah.
And after, if you figure out after intubation that something is missing, that can be a very something that's very serious.
Yeah. And then I know, like, people like to say, you know, always ask, you know, are surgeons as mean as, you know, people make them out to be? Like, that's a really big stereotype that surgeons are mean. You know, some of them, could be a little uptight, but again, 9 times out of 10, if you have everything that they need, and if you just ask the right questions, then they're probably going to be okay. They're going to be fine. Your case is going to be good. But if you act like, you know everything and you got everything, and then the case starts and you actually don't, that's what pisses them off. And I think anyone can understand that.
The snottiness and the, like, unaccountability. Because then you're like, oh, I don't know. And
I don't know. Or blame it on someone. Like, people have blamed it on, like, their circulator or something. And it's like...
Or they'd be like, somebody else at
my room. And it's like, well, you're there now. And you're the person that they're dealing with now, and the best way, because especially for me, I cover lunches, and I've gone into situations where something's not on the table, and they'd be like, well, I told such and such to do it, and, you know, you gotta just, like, bring them back, like, listen, I'm giving a lunch break, you know, I'm covering for someone, I apologize that this is not here, we can try to figure this out for you, you know, as, you know, respectful and professional as you can be. Like, at the end of the day, the operating room might seem like it's just this place, but it's actually your workplace, this is your office, and everyone should still try to be as professional as possible. If you need to check a surgeon, you check them, but you check them very professionally. You know, but, just make sure. Like, I think one of the biggest things people have asked me is that, you know, how do I let a surgeon know not to talk to me a certain way? Because sometimes they do talk down to you, and for me, 9 times out of 10, I ignore it.
Yeah, because like, you just don't have to take things personal.
You don't have to take it personal. Sometimes it's literally not even you. It's just they've had a long day.
And they also are under stress a lot. Like, this is somebody's life that they have to deal with.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Sometimes they're not even taking it out on you. They're just under a lot of stress. So it doesn't make it okay for them to talk to you a certain way, but just ignore it. Don't make it a big deal and talk to them afterwards.
Right. Like, if it really hit you in a certain way, then the best time to talk about it is after the case, not during the case, because at the end of the day, there's a patient on the table. Like, this is a real life patient, and they're what's important. They come first. So at the end of the day, just always remember that your patient comes first. Always look out for sterility. That's your number one thing. And again, like we said, have fun. Have fun. It's a fun job. It's very stressful, but it can be very fun. And the reward is, you know, feeling like you've helped someone at the end of the day it's a good feeling.
I actually wanted to add 2 more points. One, Tariq brought up a really good point. It's your room. I remember, like, especially in the beginning, you're kind of learning your footing and things like that. And since we're also working at a teaching hospital, it could feel like there's so much going on. But don't forget, like, you are just as important to the role as everyone else is. So, like, don't feel like you're a background person in this room.
Don't be a fly on the wall.
Yeah, don't do that. Because, like, once again, like, that's why it's important to speak up and do all these different things. The second thing is, sometimes you have to fake it till you make it.
You make it. For sure. Yeah.
Like, sometimes you can't always anticipate. Sometimes you just gotta be confident about it. And
I tell the surgeon, I'm like, I got you.
Don't worry.
My surgeon, can you open that? Will you open that?
Yeah.
We're just making, you know.
Just faking it till you make it.
I knew it. I knew you needed it.
Like, I got you. What do you mean? It's right here.
Yeah. You don't see it? Let me just.
It's under my. It's just under my nail. Like, chill. I got you.
That's another thing. You find ways to make space.
Yeah. Exactly.
They want to know.
But yeah, I think we kind of covered just about a lot and everything. If you're thinking about it, you know, I think during your clinical, so a lot of schools, they do a clinical portion. If it's not for you, you'll probably find out in clinical. You probably won't make it as far as here. So again, just have fun. Don't take things too serious, you know, just
or personal.
And it gets easier.
It gets easier. It gets
Orientation was hard.
Orientation was hard.
It's actually,
I hated
orientation. It took me a couple of months, like 1 or 2 or 3, I don't know, but it was overwhelming at the beginning, being thrown in different cases, and I'm like, I don't know, it was because it felt like every day I was learning something new, and I didn't know how to keep up. But eventually, every surgeon only does 5 cases. Maybe.
That's a good point.
And like, they're doing the same case.
It's like the same procedures that you can think of. It's there. Like,
yes.
You know, that one ENT surgeon that's always on the neck. You know, it's like neck dissection. And there's only so many ways you can do a neck dissection. Like, don't worry. Like, the beginning stages are really, really hard, but that's with anything. When you try something new for the first time, it's always going to be hard. But as you go and as you get comfortable, the key word is getting comfortable with your skills. You're gonna look back in like a few months and be like, wow, why was I so scared and why was I this? But it's all part of the process.
And it makes you laugh because you're like, why was I so scared of talking to people?
Of talking to people. Like, why was I scared of opening my mouth? You know, like I literally was so timid to just like say something, and it's like now I'm like, yo, you want that? You did a suture? Like literally, like you're gonna like look back and just laugh at yourself. But
and they also joke too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. They joke.
Funny.
They can be funny. They're people. And you know, and one big thing when it comes on to like going into a room, I've had people tell me, oh, this surgeon's mean or this surgeon's that. Never go into a room and base another person's opinion on someone. Like, just go in with a clear head and feel them out for yourself. Because I've had people tell me, oh, that person's mean, and then I go in a room and we're besties.
Right.
Okay, so just figure them out for yourself. Don't let anyone else's opinion like steer you away from like talking to a surgeon and like introducing yourself and being that one-on-one person with your surgeon, because everyone's different. Because sometimes it literally, it was you because we were good. Like, so it wasn't the surgeon. They just don't like you. So, just be yourself and have a good time. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have any more questions for us, we'll be more than happy to answer them.
If you want a part 2,
let us know.
Me and Yanni are pretty great. Should we kind of
we can do like part 2 of what actually goes in a step-by-step.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, whatever you guys want, we're happy to do that for you. Just let us know. Comment down below, and always subscribe, like, share, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.
Bye.
Yay! That was really fun.